famous people that are artists. That doesn't really make a difference concerning the hunger that that individual has to learn what he wants to learn or to be interested in what he has to be interested in. But what I'm saying is this: because you're interested in something, it shouldn't persuade you how many other people are interested in what you're interested in. And a lot of artists give up. I know some of y'all may have witnessed my pieces and all this and that. There's someone following, and I don't know who it is yet because I'm kind of new to this. But the question is this, and I'm going to make it bilingual. Hay mucha gente que están interesados en el arte, están interesados en cosas, diferentes cosas de la vida. Y eso no debe persuadir a que uno cambie, dado a que no hay mucha gente que están decididos a estar interesado a cual uno está interesado. O sea, like I said in Spanish, there's many, I might have to do it only in English, but I am bilingual, and if anybody wants to DM me that wants maybe a live in Spanish, maybe wants to have classes of art history in Spanish, because I am a graduate of the Superior School of Arts in Ecuador, in Guayaquil. I partook of an association called Tuagata, and it was a beautiful time for me to understand the nurturing and the care that this association had for my life as they launched me out all around the city. And we did installation art. I didn't partake, but I witnessed modern performance art. And I myself was very, very interested in experimenting with, like what you see in my reels and some of the intros and the titles, the unorthodox materials that people in the traditional sense don't use, like acrylic or oil or tempera, you know. I used in my pieces, for you all that are listening or will listen, I do my pieces with toothpaste, especially acquired from prison at that time. That toothpaste dries very quick compared to the Colgate that you buy out here and the brand names that you buy out here in the free world. So I can't use toothpaste as I had acquired it at that time back in the days to do the studies that I had, and those studies ended up being represented and ended up being exhibited here in the art house. I want to speak very favorably of the art house, especially for this young man by the name of Looper, and everyone that's associated with him and their workmanship in that little gallery. It's a really precious jewel, not because they have opened themselves up to me to exhibit, but they are open to a variety of kinds of artistry, a variety of expressions of artistry. Impressionism, expressionism, people that are in tune to do types of installations, from what I've seen, sculptures, jazz musicians, and the other facility. There are 2 facilities now that are stemmed off of this Castleberry City Hall, and I just got the letter of acceptance from him that my 4 pieces that I got accepted for the September, and this is the intro of why I'm sharing this thing in live. It's going to be exhibited in the Castleberry City Hall, which is where the exhibits started in the early 2000s, because I remember I haven't exhibited for more than 2 dimes. In other words, for more than 20 years. And then I started exhibiting again in 2023. But in early 2000s, I had exhibited in the Castleberry City Hall with a number of pieces of mine. One was called the Dead Embryo, and the other one was called Sistema Suya, which means your system, which is against, it was a protest against extreme capitalism. Okay, so now I know I'm feeding all around the bush just to say to pinpoint some things, and believe it or not, this is just the way I communicate. I communicate in a prophetic way, and in a casual prophetic way. If you meet prophetic people, they seemingly are sporadic when they talk, but they will reach the point that they have to if you really pay attention to what they're saying. And I started out this little live spontaneously because I'm coming out of my work. I'm in HVAC, and I want to just recap real quick about these little things that I've been sharing about that is very vital for artists to understand. Some artists don't make it. Many artists don't make it because many artists don't make it because they're stuck in their little pride. And I've done some reels about this, and I mean, for those that received it, they're receiving a precious jewel. Because I am a person that's very unorthodox. I am a person that doesn't like systematic teachings, but I had to learn after 48 years of my life. I finally found out that I do need some practical, systematic workmanship. You know, and it's very, very, very humbling and very interesting to humble yourself to understand that artist, even though the art and what he does, and he may be very fulfilled and very mature and very conceptual in that bulk rate degree, he's got a lot to give, but for some reason or other, like many artists, they don't have the funds to propel them forward in their artistry. And I am one of those people. I know that I know the faculty in which I work in my art, but I don't get the feedback of consistent monies from people that would be interested. And there's reasons why, because you have to investigate the land in which you're going into to see that it's not because you're a bad artist that people aren't receiving or buying your pieces. And I'm going to say this a little bluntly because, and hopefully nobody gets offended that might be hearing right now. And if anything, I'm going to release this in a reel. You know, Central Florida is very conservative. All right, and what I mean by conservative is that even in their, and I'm coming out of the experiential knowledge that I have, having been with an international artist and a very well-respected international artist, which was my professor from Chile, graduated in San Juan, Escuela de Bellas Artes, the University of the Fine Arts, and he died some years ago, and which I just found out, and it really pained me and really hurt me. It didn't hurt me, but it made me sad because he was my paternal stand and the one that understood my brain capacity and my ways of perceiving as an abstract expressionist, or as an expressionist artist, better say. He knew how to deal with me, and I'm heartfully thankful for the rest of my life of what he's imparted in my life, the assurance and the understanding of what I know, and such assurance that I have to not be persuaded and not feel that I am not doing as good as I should as an artist, due to the fact that many artists or many people don't find my pieces interesting. Because people don't find your pieces interesting doesn't mean that you're a bad artist. You might end up being one of the most well-rounded artists that many people will never know, and only the few will glimpse of the preciousness of who you are. So because you have great money, or you may have great money to buy rich material dealing with art, and brand name stores and all this and that, doesn't necessarily mean, I said doesn't necessarily mean, remember what I'm saying, I'm not being critical, I'm not being judgmental, this is just reality. Doesn't mean that you're a great artist. How does that fit with what I'm saying about Central Florida? Well, I've been training my eye to see and not perceive based on revelatory truth. What I mean by revelatory truth, I'm meaning based on my perception. Now, I know that there are some substantial truths to how we judge or how we perceive, for example, a contemporary art piece to be. And because an abstract artist in this day here in, for example, Central Florida, that's a conservative region, and to see them paint with very bright colors every step of the way, with, I'll call them the sunshine colors of Florida, doesn't really convict a mature man who understands art to be persuaded that that artist that paints with sun coloring colors on his piece is indeed a great artist. And many of y'all may negate what I'm saying, but I've been training my eye to understand even the stroke in which you stroked with. And because you person may put abstract pieces or abstract paints or abstract tones or abstract strokes on a canvas with bright, pretty colorings, you would have to ask yourself the question as to what purpose did he or she paint that bright coloring for? Because it looks pretty? And I would have to, if someone was to challenge me to prove my point as a substantial truth, I would have to say to them, you would have to look at history, like I consistently say. You would have to look at the expressionists, the or they would call them back in the days, the trans-avant-garde expressionists who came out of Italy and they came out of New York. And I'm going to name one that's not really well known, like Basquiat is. His name is Basilides. And Basilides actually repeated a little bit of what Picasso said in his own particular way, in his own particular style. And not mimicking, not copying what Picasso did, but taking certain influences and painted a series of nasty looking feet. If you guys go to Google and check out Basilides, Baselites, Basilides, yes, Baselites, Basilides. He's a German. He's still living to this day. He's launched out some exhibits lately. I think he's like 90 in late 80s. But earlier in his life as an artist in Germany, he painted a series of ugly, disgusting, even bloody feet, distorted, and to the point of someone who's traditionally looking at a classical angelic feet would say that this is a blasphemy concerning what artistry should be. So he didn't paint pretty colors, and he's one of the most noted, most respected modern artists in history. And we know Basquiat. I don't want to talk about Basquiat because everyone talks about Basquiat and don't even know the very depth of what he expressed or the purpose of why he did what he did. But other artists like Basilides have proven that there is beauty in ugliness. Now, why is that? Not even for me. I say it's a substantial truth. Because why is that important to understand? Because we look at life and we want to be ultra positive with our life structure and how we represent life or how we express life in our daily activities. For the most part in an American culture. And in Florida, since it's a touristic town, of course, you're going to see pretty colors to attract the eyes of the common people that come just to see something pretty. And that's not all of what art is. So when I go to the galleries and I see these pretty landscape pieces and everybody's very detailed and very precise in their expression of what pretty is or what beautiful is, they have proven in all reality, for someone that knows about the historical arts and the people that have pinpointed a different perspective of what beauty is in ugliness, it doesn't move him like myself. And so as I see a number of exhibits in Central Florida, I see dryness. I see very pretty colors, but for me, it's very actually nasty. It's actually nasty because that's not what life is about. And for the substantial artist, as myself, my whole purpose to do my art is to have you embrace ugliness. Have you embrace rejection. Have you embrace 23 years of doing time in prison, having you embrace fighting with your moms daily for 3 years of your life, having you embrace abuse, listen to what I'm saying now. I'm not saying to receive it and accept it as a reality that you should follow, no, but you should embrace it, because those pains and those abuses and those traumas or those misperceptions of what ugly is was actually the treasure piece of what propelled you forward if you thought right and if your emotions were lined in to understand your purpose. It was very, very essential that you would suffer those things so that you would reach a higher plateau of prominence and of excellence in your life. And prominence and excellence doesn't require for you to be rich. Prominence and excellence doesn't require for you to be known. Prominence and excellence doesn't require for you to talk with every artist in town to prove a point. True substantial artists allows destiny to be. If your destiny was to not be known, then let it be. If your destiny was to be known, then let it be. And how can you discern that? Well, that's another story that we'll talk about later on. And so my whole purpose is to not look at my own perspective, is to look at, through my art, to have people see and perceive and esteem that there are other angles of life than just looking at pretty pieces. And because in life, it's not like that when you walk around. You know, it's not like that. You know, you might go through a street and you might go with your car driving around, and all of a sudden you find that street, you know, halted, and you would have to go to a detour because they're breaking that they're breaking that street down. They're breaking it in pieces with these heavy mechanisms. And it doesn't look like even a street. It got deformed, it got crumbled, and it doesn't look like the norm. Well, there's times in your life, there are places in your life, there are rhythms in your life, there are experiences in your life that are going to be like that. But if we keep painting the outcome of what something is and never paint the very process or the unfinished business in our artistry, in our expression, to have people to be motivated to embrace those broken places in one's life, then we're really not helping humanity to really esteem themselves, are we? You see how substantial this is? That's why my pieces are kind of like, they don't look real. That's why my pieces don't look elegant. That's why my pieces can be compared to someone that knows, to Shams Soutine, who painted ugly figures. That's why my pieces can be compared to the great friend of Klimt, who painted some people that had venereal diseases and painted his face all ugly looking and frightened, fear with the traumatized soul. It's not for us to glorify that, because painting and art is just a means. Picasso said, if you think that I'm paraphrasing, if you think that you've really finished a piece, then you might as well call it doomsday for your life, because your painting, no matter how much you think you finish it, it's always in a process of finding something else to be discovered. And so that's why I wonder why. I don't wonder, but let me say this more clearly. I stand in awe to see these teachers that are teaching one to finish one's piece. There's no piece that is finished. I mean, let's go to the classical arts and the Renaissance times. Many of Leonardo's pieces were never fully done. And yet there was enough in his unfinished pieces to be exemplified and exhibited as masterpieces. So I'm not just talking because I just want to glorify this realm of artistry. This is dealing with classical realms and Renaissance realms that Leonardo, about 60 to 70% of his pieces were never totally done. So why is it that we are so fixated on making something look done and pretty when we paint a piece? Are we going backwards? Or are we really going forward in our discovery and our adventures in art? And see, when one speaks this way, all of a sudden they want to make one the false prophet. They want to make one the negative person. When in all reality, he's giving you the taste for what is very real in one's life. He's actually esteeming you. He's actually loving on you. He's actually pleading to you to really understand life for what it's worth. With all of its ugliness, with all of its stinkiness, with all the people that scream, with all the people that steal, with all the people that do so many different things. Now, I'm not glorifying that. I'm not saying that that's acceptable. But I'm saying that that's just part of life. And that's why I want to seal it with the word. Because it says in Ecclesiastes, the first chapters, it says, there's a time for everything. He never said, God never allowed that writer Solomon to say, there's only a season for you to be fulfilled in when you get done with a pretty way of doing things. No, he doesn't say that. He says there's a time to embrace, there's a time to be distant. There's a time to hate, and there's a time to love. And that's just not just the Bible. There's many different religious books that write about the true process of being. So if I'm a Hindu, for example, and I'm vibrating that word Om, Akata, Ukara, Makara, which is destruction, reservation, and birthing experiences. So in the very three-letter sounding vibration, Aum, it's the wholeness of the importance of understanding the universe through its destructions, through its processes of destructions and processes of not being all fulfilled yet, and to understand the fullness of new birthing. It's not just birthing out something. It's not just destroying either. And so I believe firmly this, based on my studies and based on my religious belief, which is Christendom. And I do study different religions, and I'm very, very interested in different religions, but I know my foundation. I've dealt with Santeria, and I've dealt with, I wasn't an initiate of them, but I partook, and I was associated with it. And I've seen some things in the spiritual realm. But maybe God will have me to cause me to release these spiritual realms to you later on. But I'm just going to things that are basic. I'm just having to, as an artist, I desire for, especially Central Florida, to sit down and receive life for what it really is. Stop living the Mickey Mouse drama of thinking that everything should be perfected and everything should be pretty. And this is not just what I'm saying. There are many respected artists from other nations that have talked to me, and they told me they're, in Central Florida, they just like living a Mickey Mouse artistry. I mean, it's true. And the only reason I'm saying this is because life is much more than just looking at pretty pieces. The reason why a true artist, a mature artist, an excellent artist does his pieces is to provoke thought, so that you would get courage and receive courage and express this courage and move out on that mountaintop to perceive life in its wholesomeness, with its bad and its goodness. And in the end, to be fulfilled with a belief of God, which in my case is Jesus Christ. And so with that in mind, I was reflecting on some things, and it has just a little bit of smear on it, the 4 pieces that I got accepted to the art house here in Castleberry. So everybody's welcome to come and anybody's welcome. It starts in September. You would have to see the Casper City Hall because I don't have it memorized what day exactly it is. I got to leave off my 4 pieces. And if you look at my 4 pieces, you will see a reflection of what I'm saying right now. So as I'm coming back from work, I'm going to the shop right now, and I'm going to leave off this van. I want to bless you guys, and I want to thank you, and I'll please take this to consideration, what I'm saying, because a lot of people don't take their time out of their work, tired, to share such a precious jewel for you guys. Be blessed. Out of there. All right.